Imagine a Roman emperor, commanding legions, facing betrayal and war on the frontiers of civilization. Now imagine a slave, crippled and owned by a cruel master, stripped of every human right. And finally, a powerful advisor, navigating the deadly intrigues of the imperial court, surrounded by enemies in the shadows. 3 different men, 3 completely different lives, and yet, they all shared one secret practice. They didn't write manifestos about it. They didn't preach it in the streets or shout it from the rooftops. It was their quiet, internal revolution, the art of inward focus and the strategic use of silence. Welcome back to Wisdom of the Stoics, the place where we don't just study ancient philosophy like it's some dusty relic. We use it as a forge to shape a better, stronger, and more resilient life. If this is your first time with us, you are exactly where you need to be. And if you're a returning friend, you already know we go deep. Today, we are not doing a superficial, top 10 tips video. We are going on a journey. We'll step into the minds of history's greatest thinkers and uncover what it truly means to focus on yourself, to master your inner world, and to command the power of silence. Before we dive in, let me give you a warning. What I am about to share is the opposite of almost everything modern society screams at you. It will challenge you. It will make you uncomfortable. Because the truth is, your attention is the most precious asset you own, and the world is fighting to steal it every single second. If you are ready to take it back, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and stay with me until the very end. Because the final part of this message might just change everything. Let's start with a simple but confronting question. Think about the last 24 hours of your life. How many times did you offer an opinion that nobody actually asked for? How many arguments did you get sucked into that had absolutely nothing to do with your life's mission or your deepest values? How many times did you react to a notification, a comment, or a breaking news story, something that, in a year, will be completely irrelevant to your existence? This isn't random chaos, it's a system. We live in what experts call an attention economy. Every ping, every controversy, every viral moment is a carefully engineered distraction, designed by algorithms and amplified by human psychology to pull you away from the only person who can truly change your life. And that person is you. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, knew this battle intimately. He sat in his military tent, surrounded by war and death, and wrote to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He was writing to himself, nearly 2,000 years ago. But it might as well have been written this morning. The battlefield has always been the human mind. The weapons have changed, but the war remains exactly the same. Let's talk about Epictetus. He was born into slavery. He was physically broken by a master who twisted his leg until it snapped. He had no rights, no property, no freedom of movement, and absolutely no hope of escape. And yet, from those chains, he became one of the most influential philosophers in human history. Emperors sought his wisdom. His words echo across millennia, reaching us even now. How is that possible? Because Epictetus drew a line in the sand. He accepted that his body was not his own. His freedom of movement was not his own. His social status was not his own. But his mind, that was his territory. That was his kingdom. He made a radical decision to turn inward, to focus exclusively on what he could control, his judgments, his desires, his aversions, his responses. He understood that no external force could touch his inner fortress unless he allowed it. It's not what happens to you, he taught, but how you react to it that matters. This is the cornerstone of Stoic self-focus. The disturbance is never outside of you. It is always inside. Until you get this truth deep in your bones, you will always be a slave to the world around you. You will be jerked around by every opinion, every setback, and every passing storm. Most people misunderstand Stoic silence completely. They think it's about being cold, detached, emotionless, a robot in human clothing. That is a profound and dangerous misunderstanding. True Stoic silence is the mastery of emotion, not the absence of it. It's the conscious, deliberate decision to speak only when your words carry genuine weight. It's the refusal to be a slave to your own tongue. It's understanding that every word you utter is a currency, and you refuse to spend it on worthless things. Seneca, a man who moved in the highest circles of power in ancient Rome, was obsessed with this idea. He watched brilliant, powerful men destroy their reputations, their relationships, and their inner peace simply by talking too much. They couldn't bear the silence. They couldn't resist the urge to fill every space with their opinions. He urged his friend Lucilius, retire into yourself as much as you can. Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. The process is mutual, for men learn while they teach. Notice the instruction. It begins with, retire into yourself. It's about being ruthlessly selective. Selective with your words, selective with your energy, selective with the people you allow into your inner circle. Think about your own life. How many conversations have left you feeling drained, anxious, and pulled into someone else's chaos? How many interactions have stolen hours of your life and given you nothing but regret in return? What would your life look like if you simply disengaged from those interactions? This isn't arrogance. It's not cruelty. It is one of the most loving things you can do for yourself, and ultimately, for everyone around you. Because when you protect your peace, you show up as a better, stronger, more present person for the people who actually matter. There is a modern psychological truth that the Stoics understood intuitively, long before science confirmed it. The more reactive you are, the more predictable you become. And predictable people are easy to control. When you jump to defend yourself, to argue back, to explain yourself to every critic who questions you, you hand over your power. You become a puppet, and the person pulling the strings doesn't even have to try. They can provoke you at will, knowing exactly which button to push. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man on earth, and yet people constantly tried to provoke him. Rivals, enemies, political schemers, and ambitious senators all had their hidden agendas. His secret weapon was devastatingly simple. He just didn't react. The best revenge, he wrote, is to be unlike him who performed the injustice. He didn't need to argue. He didn't need to prove his point. He didn't need to defend his reputation. He simply continued being who he was, disciplined, principled, and ruthlessly focused on what mattered. He let his actions speak while his mouth stayed shut. He let his life be the argument. This is the strength of true silence. It is not weakness. It is absolute, unshakable power. It is the power to remain untouched by the chaos around you. I want you to think about something right now. Where in your life, at this very moment, is the most powerful response a silent one? It might be with a difficult colleague who thrives on conflict. It might be with a family member who knows exactly how to push your buttons. It might be online, where anonymity fuels endless arguments. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one, and I genuinely want to know what you're facing. Because when you name the battle, you've already begun to win it. Now we arrive at the philosophical superpower of the Stoics. They called it the dichotomy of control, and once you truly understand it, it will feel like someone has handed you the master key to your own mind. Epictetus broke the world into two simple categories. First, what is up to you? Your thoughts, your choices, your effort, your attitude, your response to everything that happens to you. Second, what is not up to you? Other people's opinions, the weather, the economy, the past, the future, what your boss thinks of you, whether your last post went viral, whether someone likes you back. Make the best use of what is in your power, he taught, and take the rest as it happens. Here's where it gets profound. Most people spend about 80% of their mental energy obsessing over things they cannot control. Then they wonder why they feel exhausted, anxious, overwhelmed, and completely stuck. Focusing on yourself, in the Stoic sense, is simply redirecting that energy back to where it belongs. Back to your craft, back to your growth, back to your character, back to the things that actually move the needle in your life. Late in his life, after decades in the dangerous political circus of Emperor Nero's Rome, Seneca did something extraordinary. He walked away. He gave up his enormous wealth, his political influence, his social standing, and his position of power. He retreated into himself. It wasn't selfishness. It wasn't isolation. It was radical intentionality. He spent his final years writing, thinking, corresponding with true friends, and working relentlessly on his own character. He understood something that most people spend their entire lives never discovering. Your inner world is the only world you truly own. The person who cultivates their inner world with discipline and intention will eventually transform their outer world completely. Withdraw into yourself to the extent you can, he wrote. Admit only the worthy into your company. Seneca realized that a person who cultivates their inner life becomes a source of strength for everyone around them. The quiet discipline of self-focus ripples outward in ways we cannot even see. There is a common misconception that focusing on yourself is somehow selfish. The Stoics would argue the exact opposite, and they would do so with passion. Think about the oxygen mask on an airplane. They always tell you to put on your own mask first. Not because your life is more valuable than the person next to you. Not because you're more important. But because if you lose consciousness, you can't help anyone else. You become a liability instead of an asset. The Stoics understood this with profound clarity. A person who is scattered, reactive, and completely drained cannot genuinely contribute to the world. They have nothing left to give. But a person who has cultivated their inner life, their character, their discipline, their clarity, becomes an anchor for everyone around them. Most people are mirrors. They reflect back whatever energy the world throws at them. If someone is angry, they get angry. If they are criticized, they collapse. If they are praised, they float away on a cloud of ego. Their entire emotional state is determined by external input. The Stoic goal is to become a lighthouse. A lighthouse doesn't react to the storm. It doesn't move when the waves crash against it. It doesn't change its beam based on what the weather is doing. It simply shines, steadily, powerfully, reliably, and in doing so, it guides ships to safety. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. When you do the inner work, you become that lighthouse. You become a source of stability, wisdom, and calm for the people in your life. The deeper you invest in your own growth, the more powerfully you serve others. This is the beautiful paradox of Stoic self-focus. Let me ask you something honestly. How much of your energy right now is going toward managing what other people think of you? Your social media image, the way you dress, the opinions you perform in public, the achievements you announce, the people you pretend to agree with because disagreeing feels too risky. All of that has a cost, and that cost is paid in the currency of your authentic self. Every time you perform for an audience, you lose a little bit of who you really are. Epictetus was relentless about this. He watched intelligent, educated, well-meaning people destroy their peace of mind trying to control their image. They were trying to control something that was never theirs to control in the first place. First say to yourself what you would be, he taught, and then do what you have to do. Decide who you are, define your values, clarify your principles, then live that truth quietly, without announcement, without seeking applause, without demanding validation. The person who needs no one's approval is the freest person in the room. Philosophy without practice is just decoration. It's empty words. The Stoics were, above all else, practitioners. They didn't just talk about wisdom. They lived it. So how do we actually do this in our messy, noisy, modern lives? Here are 5 powerful practices you can start implementing today. The first practice is the morning sanctuary. Marcus Aurelius began every single day with a private journal. The meditations weren't written for publication. They were his morning conversation with himself, a daily recalibration of his values. For the first 20 minutes after you wake up, do not touch your phone. Do not check messages. Do not consume news or social media. Instead, write down 3 things: who you want to be today, what you're genuinely grateful for, and one thing within your control that you will act on. The second practice is the triple filter. Seneca practiced what we might call selective silence. Before speaking in any situation, he would ask himself 3 questions. Is what I'm about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If the answer to all 3 wasn't a firm yes, he stayed silent. Try this for just one day. You will be astonished at how many of your usual responses don't pass the test. And you will be equally astonished at what happens to your relationships and your peace of mind when you hold back what doesn't need to be said. The third practice is voluntary discomfort. This one surprises people, but it is essential. The Stoics regularly practiced voluntary discomfort. They would choose to go without something comfortable, sleeping on a hard floor, eating a simple meal, going without their luxuries. Why? Because comfort is a chain. When you are attached to comfort, anything that threatens it owns you. But when you have voluntarily experienced discomfort and survived, you know at a cellular level that you can handle it. You become unshakable. Once a week, practice one deliberate discomfort. Fast for a day, take a cold shower, turn off all screens for 24 hours. These aren't punishments. They are training sessions for your freedom. The fourth practice is the evening audit. Every evening, Epictetus recommended reviewing your day. Not to judge yourself harshly, but to understand yourself honestly. Ask yourself 3 questions. Where did I lose control of my responses today? Where did I speak when I should have stayed silent? Where did I look outward for what I should have found within? This isn't self-criticism, it's self-knowledge, and self-knowledge is the beginning of self-mastery. The fifth and final practice is the inner retreat. Whenever the external world feels overwhelming, before you react, before you speak, before you engage, take 3 slow breaths and retreat inward. Remind yourself of your values. Remember what is within your control and what is not. That 3-second pause is not weakness. It is the foundation of every good decision you will ever make. I want to be completely honest with you about something. When you start focusing on yourself and staying silent, it will not feel powerful at first. It will feel deeply uncomfortable. It will feel wrong, because the people in your life are used to a version of you that reacts, that explains, that defends, that performs. When you stop doing those things, some people are going to be confused. Some are going to be threatened. Some are going to try even harder to provoke a reaction. Let them. Stay the course. Because on the inside, something remarkable begins to happen. Your anxiety begins to decrease. Not because your problems disappear, but because you stop fighting battles that were never yours to fight. Your focus sharpens dramatically. You stop giving your attention to everything that asks for it and start directing it toward what actually matters. Your relationships deepen. Counterintuitively, when you become more selective about who gets your energy, the connections you do invest in become extraordinary. Because you are showing up as the real you, not the performed, approval-seeking version. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to trust yourself again. The constant noise of other people's opinions fades into the background, and in that silence, you hear your own voice clearly, perhaps for the first time in years. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. 2,000 years ago, a slave with a broken leg changed the world through the power of his mind. An emperor of Rome wrestled with his own character every single morning in private journals that were never meant to be read. A wealthy advisor walked away from power and status to focus entirely on becoming who he was meant to be. They didn't have social media. They didn't have algorithms or endless notifications competing for their attention. And yet the battle they fought, the battle for their own minds, their own focus, their own inner peace, is identical to the battle you are fighting right now. And the solution they found is identical too. Focus on yourself, not obsessively, not selfishly, but deliberately, consistently, with the quiet confidence of someone who has decided that their inner world is worth protecting. Stay silent, not forever, not completely, but strategically. Save your words for what matters. Save your energy for what builds. Save your attention for what transforms. Because here is the final truth the Stoics want you to understand. You have been assigned this mountain to show others it can be moved. Your life is not just about you, but it starts with you. And if you are scattered, reactive, and living at the mercy of every opinion and event around you, you cannot be what you are meant to be. So begin today, quietly, powerfully, with the unshakable determination of someone who has finally taken control of their own mind. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, if there was even one moment where you thought, I needed to hear that, I want you to do 3 things right now. First, hit that like button. It takes 1 second, and it tells the platform that this kind of content matters. Which means more people who need it will find it. Second, subscribe to Wisdom of the Stoics if you haven't already. We are building something here together. A community of people committed to living with more intention, more depth, and more genuine power. Third, share this video with one person. Just one. Someone in your life who you think might need to hear this message today. Because sometimes, the most stoic thing you can do is quietly hand someone else the key to their own freedom. Stay silent, stay focused, stay stoic. I'll see you in the next one.